Connor, welcome to Kalen's Lens. I am super excited to have you on the pod, and I cannot wait to hear all about your insights. And so I thought for the listeners, let's get straight into it. For those that might not know who you are, can you tell us a bit about who you are, your background, and where you currently are in your life?
So I'm Connor McCrindle. I met Kalen through college. He went to kind of a similar secondary school, kind of knew of him through other people. I went and did my A levels at Loughborough. I did maths, business, and biology. From there, I was kind of in a state of two minds, whether to kind of go to uni or go into the corporate world. And the way it kind of fell on my lap was kind of pushing me more towards the corporate world. Um, and kind of luckily at the time, my girlfriend, which is still my current girlfriend, her dad had a financial recruitment company who obviously put in a good word with the company, got me an interview there, and obviously won it myself, obviously, had to do that. But yeah, I started there, a business called BSS, where I was a new account lead. So I was kind of risk assessment, kind of credit limits, deep diving into kind of financial records, seeing what kind of credit we could give them, checking out fraudulent IDs, that sort of thing. And then I got transferred to their sister company called TF Solutions, which was kind of an air conditioning engineering kind of supplier. There I was trained up to be a credit controller, which more social. I wouldn't say it was as much fun, but kind of again fell on my lap, and obviously the increase, the more training kind of just incentivized itself. Then from there, I got headhunted again from his name is Neil Millie's dad, his agency to a big, huge American company called Thermo Fisher, where I was then promoted in title to senior credit controller. So obviously it came with more money and more responsibility, which is where I'm at now.
Thank you for like
The long intro.
No, but I think it's really valuable in terms of seeing the progress from
Yeah.
meeting at A levels to not going down the traditional sort of path that everyone expects, especially at A levels. I feel like at Loughborough, it was so much so like almost like A levels to uni, and there wasn't really much talk about alternatives. It was either you go to uni, yes, there were the apprenticeship discussions, but they weren't that big, so to speak,
Hmm.
or that's it. Like they didn't really speak about entering the world of work, entering the corporate world. So
Yeah.
knowing that for the listeners, like that is a different possibility, that is a different avenue. It's very valuable to hear that you can become something from that, even though you don't know where you might go. And yes, it did work for you in a way that you had sort of a network that allowed you to get into places, but knowing that it wasn't just the network and it was the work that you had put in alongside that to become a senior credit controller as well. But I just want to take a moment to go all the way back to A level results day. What was going through your mind on that day in terms of going to uni, not going to uni, like that whole situation? Like, what was going through your mind on that day?
So I remember on that day quite vividly, me and Ruben, so your other guest you've had on your pod, we both opened our obviously envelope, and he's pulled out three A stars. I was like, quite hard to keep up with. For mine now wasn't quite what I expected. However, I did when I checked UCAS, I did get into my insurance, which I was known for some reason. Yeah, so my gut told me kind of not to do that. I kind of I had Manchester Metropolitan, which was my insurance choice for international business management. And I only kind of chose that because business was my favorite subject out of the three. But I didn't really want to go to uni if I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. Obviously, you yourself are quite straight pointed, know exactly kind of what kind of field you want to go into, which was fair enough. You went in and did uni for that. Whereas my kind of thought was I didn't want to go to uni and not come out with it with the way I want my career to go, and just see it as kind of a 3 year kind of gap, and then put myself in debt as well. So I think they gave me a call up and they said kind of what do you want to do? Do you want to accept the offer or do you want to deny it? And I had time to kind of speak to Neil and see what kind of things he had going. And he kind of just sold it to me, just basically saying, you know, this place you're going to, if you do choose it, had genuine progression, sorry. And it's not all, you know, you're not having to be forced down the university route. So I trusted him in that. And I guess that's where we are now. It's
Do
kind
you
of
think with that moment that being in that position, how hard
mm,
it might have been? Because it was like, fair enough, you had this plan and you wanted to go down that plan originally, but in the beat of a moment, everything flipped. Or do you feel potentially that it was the best thing to happen for you as an individual?
it's a very good question. Um, I think it was very difficult because obviously people often go to college to then go to university. So the majority of people around me were choosing to go to university. But I think you are right. I think the best decision for me was to kind of do what I was doing. I think I knew that I didn't really want to go to university and kind of sit there in libraries and in my dorm and revise for hours and hours and hours. I just don't think that would have kind of been as practical for me. I think I'm more of a visual, hands-on, like how I think I got trained up for these roles. Um, and I don't know, it just felt right, even though it was a difficult decision. I think I just had to stick my guns.
Damn, I'm just like, I feel like as well, it's because it was so pushed on you to go to uni, but to kind of not
Yeah,
go down the status quo of what everyone thought was going to happen, and trusting that maybe like
yeah,
A levels, maybe A levels was the lesson for you, that you're kind of just not enjoying the actual work side of it, and that you'd prefer to be in sort of like industry style as well. If you had like one piece of advice based on all that experience of trusting your gut and going through your gut, what would you say to someone about that whole experience of not getting the results that you want didn't that you wanted, but you were still able to go to uni regardless, or going down a completely different path which you chose to do at the end of it?
um, I think the biggest piece of advice I could give is don't be a sheep. Don't just follow the crowd because everyone else is doing it. If you know deep down that you know it might not be the right choice for you, it's a big step for you. You know, it brings on a lot of debt. Obviously, it can be paid obviously in small amounts over the month and whatnot. It is a big decision. It's a big 3 years. In those 3 years, you could progress in the corporate world massively. I've only been I've only been there a year and a half, and I've made it to a senior. You know, the next oldest senior in my firm is 28. So I think the fact that I'm in there kind of 8 years soon, 8 years sooner, just shows that you don't have to go to uni. You can progress into sort of a well-established role and a well-established business without having to go to uni. I think you've just got to stick with it, trust yourself that you can do something better. Maybe not better, but you can do something without having to get those qualifications initially. Because there are lots of chances for these big firms that do put you through these courses and you know they want educated employees for the long term. So there's always going to be another opportunity for you out there that maybe get another qualification under your belt.
And I think as well, like the whole they're willing to invest within you says a lot about how much they value you and value sort of like your skills that you've had before. Yes, you have your A levels and you have your qualifications, but then everything else that you've done alongside that to get to that position, and it's all about that value and that how having that value pretty much changes the course because it's like you're then valued by others, and like you said,
Mm.
achieving such a great big massive achievement that you wouldn't have been able to achieve had you gone down uni in terms of getting promoted from credit controller to senior credit controller 8 years ahead of the next one is truly a
Yeah,
testament to the character that I feel you have to
exactly.
have in
Yeah.
order to go down that path. Now, looking back on A levels, were there any skills outside of the A levels that you learned, whether that be through part-time jobs, that helped you or prepared you for that role that you're in right now?
During my A levels, I initially started at McDonald's, which is just kind of save a bit of money for my car here and there. And then I think I took a step away from there and I decided to do my lifeguarding qualification, where I kind of thought, let's try and get somewhere where I can have a qualification, see how the actual real world kind of jobs work. Because if I wanted to stay there, I've got a friend who's 18 and he's a manager, so he's done the same route. He just never went to A levels. I think work in the corporate world is just so valuable. You will never learn unless you have a placement in your university. You just will never know what it's like until you're actually there. It is a big game changer, I think.
And I feel like if you didn't do the lifeguarding role specifically or take that step, you may have
Yeah.
not had potentially, is it correct in saying sort of like the encouragement to not go down the sort of traditional path? Because I think traditionally, especially where the area that we're from, it is tradition to kind of work at Mackey's or
Yeah.
work at a fast food place and then move on, or for some people, stay there, which is fine for them if that's how they see their lives. But in terms of knowing to take that step out, but getting the lifeguard qualification in itself as well.
Yeah, I think it was huge for me because I think McDonald's pay was amazing. I think I was 16 earning £8 an hour. So compare that to minimum wage with um other 16-year-old jobs like a news round, anything like that. Paper round, so not news round. It was it was a big incentive to kind of go there, but I knew deep down if I stayed there, I kind of would have sat out until the end of college and then just thought to myself, just till the end of college, then we'll go to uni. But I knew that wasn't really where I want to be. It wasn't with the people I want to be. I wasn't really learning anything valuable. I wasn't under pressure. Wasn't under anything that was kind of going to teach me anything in the future. So instead of just working there, I thought let's actually learn something in the meantime.
And I want to take it back to a point that I know you just literally spoke about is the people
Mm,
and how being around certain people influences how people act. Or I feel like there's a quote somewhere in the world where people are like, who you spend your time with dictates what you become, so to speak. And do you think because you stepped away, you are now in a position where you've built a network of more highly valuable people, so to speak, in terms
mm.
of where they add value because you're kind of on the same intellect, you're kind of in the same region or like domain, so to speak, of working environments or like skills that you want to work with. Do you think that is one of the biggest things that's helped you on the journey is leaving those people behind?
Do I do? I think there's certain people in our kind of in mine and Ruben's friendship group during secondary, during college, who didn't really have the aspirations to go out and achieve a career or achieve anything kind of big. They didn't aim big. And I think myself and Ruben both had the same kind of aspirations. We both wanted to kind of do good in our career, whatever that may be. Um, I do want to link that into the gym though. I think that spending so much time in the gym and kind of that whole process of bettering yourself also put especially me in the mindset of you can always do better, you can always aim higher, and I think that was just invaluable. I think it's one of the greatest things people can do. I think it's more important than waking up and having breakfast. I think it's honestly, it is. I'd recommend it to everyone. It's just, I think, so good for the brain. It's so good for your mental health. Can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, no, I have to completely agree. Even seeing the results of, yes, people may not want to go for the physical side, but more obviously the mental side and the
Yeah,
impact that it has mentally, not only on your life. Like, I know it's saved my life, and I know for so many people it can save theirs in terms of the thoughts and what might be happening within your
yeah,
life. And it's more of a outlook, so to speak, in terms of how you approach the session. Whether you're angry, okay, then you can kind of take it out on the weights, but not literally, but yeah. or you can run on the treadmill if you want to do cardio, or just enjoying an out or like something of a distraction that allows your brain to sort of switch off from the work, switch off from the current circle and the people that are around, and fully focus in on you. And I truly agree so much that when you begin to invest within yourself, things start to happen for you. And in your respect, things began to happen for yourself when you actually began to invest within yourself. And so,
Exactly.
fast forwarding from being a lifeguard and how your career has progressed significantly, even in 2 years, in terms of all the roles. What was that first role like, moving into the corporate world from A levels? For the listeners who might even be interested in the role itself in finance, what was it like? How was it learning about the role?
Yeah, it was a enormous jump. It was kind of going from a big leisure centre where everything's kind of relaxed and you don't have to be too formal, to then jumping into a huge office with a couple of hundred people, all wearing shirts and formal shoes and trousers. It was a big step. But I think I was lucky enough to kind of have a really good mentor. It was in our team, it was kind of the senior guy who was running it, and then he got me. So I kind of had a really nice one-to-one relationship with him, and he was amazing. I couldn't thank him enough. Chris Hallam, he was honestly, I think he set me up initially for success. I think he just knew that when I had my interview with him, I don't know, we just seemed to click, and I think he relieved the pressure of the transition from my first full-time role, and the training. He just made everything seem so calm and not rushed. And I think you've got to have someone like that in your transition, someone in your corner, kind of understanding what is going on, how daunting it can be. And I just have to thank Chris.
Do you think people should be looking for mentors, or do you think it kind of happens naturally? Because from your story, it's kind of the sense that it happened naturally and that you guys kind of clicked and that that's
Yeah.
what's led to the things. Do you think, like, in that sense?
Um, I kind of think a bit of both. I think like you've always got someone you look up to, whether that be someone on the internet or your parents. You've always got someone who kind of does influence you and does help you and understand the situations. But I think when it comes to actual work and your full-time role, I feel like, your parents, your celebrity Instagram person isn't going to be there to talk to you and actually give you advice on what to do. So I think it is key you've got someone in that place where you're working that can kind of sit you down and help you. So I do think you should have one that is kind of man-made and in your head, but I do also think there should be one that is natural. I think there will be always someone at your work who you naturally kind of are drawn to, who you do kind of naturally go to them and ask questions over other people just because you do naturally look up to them and want to be like them.
And what have you learned from Chris? What have you learned from the way that he acts to the way that he moves that now become a part of you and how you act or present yourself in sort of meetings to show like the actual value of having a mentor?
Yeah, I think Chris, he was just so relaxed. You know, nothing ever rushed him. Um, unless he needed to be rushed. He was just such a calm character. As soon as he walked in, he would say hello to everyone. He'd take his time out of the day to make sure everyone's all right. In his meetings, he wouldn't just start the meeting and go straight into all business. He took your time to kind of actually get that personal connection. And I think especially in my second role where I was on the phones a lot, I was chasing up all this money that they owed us. Instead of doing it in a harmful way where you kind of go, okay, you owe us this X amount of money, give us it. You kind of be nice to them, kind of think, okay, let's try and get this sorted for him because he is a half decent lad. I think that especially helped when Chris came across like that anyway. It just kind of came second nature to me.
Damn, I feel it because it's like even though he's not directly doing it, the fact that
Hmm.
you could well, he's directly doing it but not directly saying what he's doing.
Yeah,
And the fact
it's
that you
natural for
can
him.
and the fact that you as well can kind of see the things as an individual and what the way he moves to the way he talks to the way he acts to how he may present himself, but also how he acts with a specific client. And it's sort of the case that he's not telling you all this, but you're learning it from his movements to be
Yeah.
able to become a better credit controller in a way. But for those that may not know what an actual credit controller is or does, what does one do on a day-to-day basis?
So a credit controller is, I'm not going to glorify it. It is an entry level financial role that kind of essentially you're debt chasing. So obviously an invoice will go out, their accounts payable team will kind of look at that and be like, okay, there's something wrong with this. Then it's our job to kind of get that resolved. If we need to release a refund or a credit, or we need to go talk to our financial teams, then we have to do that to kind of resolve the issue. So there's a lot of customer service, a lot of interlinking between different parts of the business. But then there's also comes where it's month end, where we have our targets, we have to run our reports and see how much we've been getting in. And then we've got a target called bad debt. So that's where you kind of have debt which has lasted up to over a year, sorry. And that's kind of our main target because obviously you want to bring that down as much as possible. Um, and yeah, it's just kind of chasing debt. It's nothing special. I won't glorify it. I think everyone knows who is in the financial kind of sector. They know it's nothing end goal. But I think the fact I've been able to get to senior role in such a short time, it encourages me to kind of go for more. But it's taught me the absolute basics into finance, and the fact that I came from A levels with kind of nothing apart from my business and maths. I didn't know anything about how the corporate world worked. So it's taught me everything, to be honest.
And I feel like the journey as well, it's how starting off at business to maths to then finding the role that sort of allows you to enter the world that you've thought about wanting to enter. Do you
Yeah.
think it's a good role in terms of those that may be starting out to actually pursue or to consider in terms of the long-term plan of entering the financial sector?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember my first role I got, which was a new accounts lead. So obviously looking at the risk and the credit. I sat down with my manager and I joined fresh 18. You know, she knew I was quite outrageous in terms of where I want to be. And she did sit me down and said, we can put you through your ACCA, which is your child accountant. And at the time, I had kind of my buddy who was there. He was 20 years old, and he was already a couple years into that. So I think kind of where you want to be compared to where you start don't necessarily sit too far away. I think it's just kind of getting your foot in the door and that let the treadmill go. It all just builds up the snowball. It does just kind of keep going. I think a lot of people, I know, especially for me, it was quite difficult to kind of think, okay, we're starting at this basic role, but I kind of had to take a step back and think, okay, I'm 18 years old. They're not going to want me for an absolute CEO role. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's definitely a good foot into the financial sector if that's what you want.
And hearing that for the listeners, it's kind of a testament because it's like not everyone's journey is linear, but you can still keep the outrageous goal, which
Mm,
probably isn't outrageous in the grand scheme of things. Well, I feel like people would think it would be outrageous from sort of
yeah,
maybe like the place or the place that you grew up, so to speak, that it is outrageous, like no
yeah,
one's done it before. But in the grand scheme of things, as soon as you get your foot in the door, it doesn't become as outrageous in terms of the trajectory that you're on.
yeah,
And by the sounds of
exactly.
it, it's very clear as well, like you're on such a trajectory that you're going to achieve it, whether that not be tomorrow, but it'll happen at some point in the near
Yeah.
future. But in terms of your journey so far, have you had any sort of like learning curves or things that have actually tested you or made you actually consider, is this the career that I want to continue going down?
Yeah, definitely. I've had a couple difficult managers along the way, which obviously taught me that pick kind of mentors wisely. And but again, that's out of my hands. You kind of get who you got. I also think that it's kind of really important to be patient. I think a lot of the time, especially during the start of my kind of career, you kind of need to take a step back and realize that you can't make time fly. You want to be at the end goal, but you need to work for it. You can't just take a time travel machine 20 years from now and be where you want to be sat. You need to actually go through it. And I think personally that was one of the biggest things for me, is because I feel like I am very, what's the word? Kind of, again, I'll use the word outrageous in kind of where I want to be. Um, I'm very motivated and I really want to get my teeth into things, especially if it's things which I don't necessarily understand, even if it's something where it might take me longer than others to do it. I just want to get to learn new things and kind of move forward and progress. But I've actually got to learn those things to progress. And I think that was my biggest challenge in terms of kind of the difficulties.
But I don't think there's like anything wrong, so to speak, with wanting to be ambitious. I feel like it
Mm,
sounds a lot like the Kaizen mentality of continuous
mm,
improvement, that every act is going to allow you to improve. It's just making sure to remain patient. And I think it's that skill is you may have not had the skill before, but the learning curves taught you how to be patient for the future because not everything's going to go the way that you want it to go. And I feel like if you hadn't had gone through those hard moments with the difficult managers or gone through the times of not knowing how to approach that situation with those managers, that it wouldn't have allowed you to sort of grow in other aspects of the career or other aspects of the role, so to speak.
yeah, I completely agree. Um, you know, there's been situations where I've had to have a sit down with my manager and kind of again be patient with it. They may not understand the full situation of it. So you do just kind of have to take a minute and think, is it worth it? In the longevity of it, you again just be patient. You're probably more frustrated because there's nothing progressing at the time. So you just need, especially for me, that was one of the big one. Again, I'll go back to it. It's just patience. I think I was just so eager. That's the word I was looking for earlier. I was so eager to get on, and it kind of frustrated me so much that I was maybe kicking up a fuss where I shouldn't have, asking for things which wasn't necessarily my place to do. But again, that's just me being eager. I wanted to learn new things, and without it, I probably wouldn't be where I am. But I think that is one of the biggest things in the corporate world which you need to watch out for, is being complacent. I think it's very easy to kind of sit in my shoes now for the next 10, 15 years because I've now made it a senior. It's kind of, I've skipped ahead a few years and it's easy to just kind of sit for those few years and be happy where I am. So I just need to keep that eager mentality, keep it going, so I can just hopefully get an early retirement with a nice lump sum.
And I'm sure I can guarantee if that same mindset continues, you're going to get there within the next 5, 6 years after
Exactly.
getting to the next place that
Exactly.
you want to get to. And I think it's the perfect point to sort of conclude. But before we conclude part one, is my final thing that I want you to consider or think of is when you look back on your journey so far, starting at A levels to at 16 to then becoming a lifeguard and then now as senior credit controller. If you could go back and speak to that 16-year-old version of yourself, what is the one piece of advice apart from patience that you could give that person?
Come with a corker, haven't you? Oh, I would say to myself to ignore the outside noise. I think at the time I was very much listening to everyone else's opinions and it kind of persuaded me into what I wanted to do. And I think it only took me to where I actually had to make the decision of what I wanted to do to kind of break me and be like, okay, I actually don't want to do this. Um, so I think you've just got to ignore the outside noise, listen to yourself, believe in what you can do, and get to it.
I feel like that's just the perfect way to finish part one because
Yeah.
it's just hits inside of anyone like ignore the outside noise, ignore everyone that's around you, and until you believe your own intuition and what you're actually capable of, coupled with yes, it's going to take a bit of time, but then learning how to be patient with that. But also recognizing that no one's voice is going to be able to change the place that you want to go to and that it's about drowning out those voices, drowning out every negative person within your life to allow the positive to fully embrace and become such more of a linear, not linear path, so to speak, but much more of a, I know that this is where I want to be. I'm not going to conform to the norms that everybody else does in the place that I'm from. And truly embracing that, yes, it's hard, but I'm going to get there at some point. And so, without those moments in your life as well, do you think everything had to happen for a reason for you to be sat here in the position that you are today?
Absolutely. I'm a big believer that everything happens for a reason. I think personally that all of our lives are already set out in stone, somewhere that we're just following what is already written for us. I think if it wouldn't happen, it wouldn't have happened. And I think there's no point looking back and regretting these decisions about, I could be sitting here thinking, oh, Kalen's at uni, I could be there with him, kind of doing something. But I'm happy with the decision I made. I'm happy that I made the decision for myself and followed what I wanted to do at the time. And I can't complain at that. I think I've just got to work hard, get to where I want to be, and life will happen.
I completely agree, and I see it happening in the near future where you want to go, where you want to be. And so, for the listeners, that was part one with Connor. And genuinely, I have to say, I was just taken aback throughout everything that Connor was saying, even right to the last moment. I've literally been taking notes of the journey, the patience, and how trusting your intuition and trusting that this is the journey to be on, that you're on, is the key to life. So to Connor, thank you for part one of
Thank you very
your
much.
series. Thank you to everyone that's listening, and we'll be back soon for another episode with Connor, and you will not want to miss that episode.